Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and it is the end of the year. It is the last week in 2023, and as this year is disappearing, I thought I'm going to do a disappearing quilt for you guys. And so take a look at this quilt behind me. I'm calling this Disappearing Pinwheel Illusion because it has that illusion of standing out and popping. It just looks so cool. I think it's such a fun block. You guys know I love the disappearing blocks, so let me show you how to make this. So to make this quilt, you're going to need one packet of 10-inch squares, pre-cuts, and I have used this beautiful line called English Garden by Edyta Sitar for Andover Fabrics. You're going to need one layer cake of background fabrics, or about 3 yards of whatever kind of solid you want to use or whatever kind of background you want to use. This is our border right here, and you're going to need 1.5 yards, and these are big 6-inch borders. And this is our backing, and it's a cheater print, so let me show you the backing because it looks so cool. Are you ready? Oh, right? Isn't that so pretty? I love a good cheater back. It's my hashtag perfect points. I love that. Also, you will need a squaring tool, and I have used the Bloc Loc ruler. So I love making disappearing blocks, and I've been doing them for a long time, and you know that, and it's just such a fun block, and you never know what's happening. But now, because there's a lot of other people doing them, whenever I do a disappearing block, I'll go look on YouTube and see if I can find it. And I happen to see that somebody made a block very similar to this one. It's smaller, it's 2 colors, but I contacted her to let her know that I was going to do the same block, only with pre-cuts, that I had already, had it in the works. And her name is Britta, the Questioning Quilter, and she's so delightful. And she actually has so many of these disappearing blocks. You guys should surely go check her out. So Britta, the Questioning Quilter, and she's just darling, does a great job of teaching how to do these disappearing blocks. They're going to be a different size than mine, but as long as you start with a square, it's going to work. So let me show you how to make this quilt. All right, so we're going to start with a background square and a colored square. Now in this pack, there are a lot of light ones. I pulled those out right away. I knew they weren't going to work with my background, and so I just pulled them out. And so I'm going to find, oh, how about this blue? Well, we have a blue right there. Oh, let me get something else then. How about this red leaves? This is going to be fun. All right. So I pulled out all my light blocks. So I ended up with 36 squares, which makes a 6x6 layout. But how you put this together is so fun. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 10-inch squares, and we're going to lay them right on top of each other, and we're going to sew all the way around them because we're going to make 4 half-square triangles that we're going to put together as a pinwheel. So we're going to go 1/4 inch, and we're going to sew all the way around this. There we go. And it doesn't matter how perfect that is because we are going to cut this and square it. You do want to make sure that you've caught all the edges because I'm close on this one and I'm close on this one, but close is good because as long as we have it all sewn up, we are good. So I'm going to cut this diagonally both directions like this. 1 and 2. And then we are going to press these open, and then each one of these will have to be squared to 6 1/4. Now, in the beginning, when I did my disappearing blocks to begin with, I was not yet squaring my blocks. And so I would say things like, just sew them together as a pinwheel and do it about 2 and a bit, or 2 and a skosh, or a few threads over. But now we've got it down to a science. So we are going to go ahead and square these to 6 1/4. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to lay my block on here, and you can see it fits the 6 1/2 line, but not all of them are this exact. Some of them are too close, so we went with 6 1/4. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a straight line on this outside over here like this. And I'm going to take these away, and then I'm going to turn this down, turn it around just like this. I don't even have to lift the ruler, and then I'm just going to slide it down till it hits the 1/4 inch mark here and here. And then I'm going to cut this top part off over here like this. So we are going to do that 4 more times, just so you can get the hang of it, because I've done a few already. All right, so now, and one of the things I always try to do is when you line up your Bloc Loc, it has this little bit of a, it's just shaved right here in the middle a little bit, so it butts up next to that seam and it won't move too much. So you just want to make sure that your words are on the background, because if you press to the dark side, the words will always work on the background. So I'm going to slide this up until I notice that all of my covers, see this block is a bit smaller than the other one. I'm not sure why that works, but it is that way. And so then I'm just going to turn this around like this, and I'm going to slide it off to the quarter mark, inch and a quarter, I mean just 1/4. And then I'm going to trim off this other side right here. And these make for really perfect blocks for sewing together. I like to always try and start with one side, make one side perfect, and then I can just flip this around and slide it down to the quarter and trim this off right here. And one more. And I'm keeping my words on my background side, making sure that I'm in that little groove. If you're squaring with a regular ruler, you just want to make sure that your 45 line is lined up diagonally on the seam, corner to corner. And you can do the same thing. You can just slide it back around just like this and trim both sides. Make sure that your diagonal line is still on that corner. All right. So now we've got all these, and I'm just going to brush this off, and then we're going to put these together as a pinwheel. So I like to start mine like this. My mantra is light, dark, seams to the center. So I'm going to do light, dark, seams to the center all the way around like this and this, and we are going to sew this together to make one large pinwheel. All right, so just line these up. Make sure that you're nesting here in the middle. And then we can just go ahead and sew these two on because we lined them up exactly straight. And I've left my connecting thread in the middle because if I laid these out right, I should be able to just piece these together as a pinwheel. So we're just going to fold this over and we're going to sew it toward the middle. Now I have another block here that's ready to sew. So I'm going to go ahead and do that one. So let's lay it out as a pinwheel as well. Let's see, we're going to go right here. Light, dark to the middle. Light, dark to the middle. Light, dark to the middle. I literally have to do this every time because I'm angly challenged. Now I can get where I go along and sew, and then all of a sudden I'll look and I'll be like, oh, that's not right. So I always kind of say that little mantra as I'm going along for every block. This one as well. And we will then press these open. Let's sew this middle together. And I'm making 2 of these. I already have some others made because the layout is really important on this. But I'm making 2 because I have a feeling you're going to want to see this cutting twice. Now remember, we are sewing on the bias, so don't pull your block. Just let the feed dogs take it through. You know, the bias has never been a thing for me. I was a clothing sewer first, and clothing sewers love the bias. You know, we love, it makes everything hang nice, it works nice. And I think as long as you are careful, don't pull, don't stretch, we can make all kinds of fun things, and we don't have to worry about that bias. All right, so now it's a good time to find your spinning mat, which mine's right here. And we're going to lay this on here. And I am going to cut 2 inches exactly from that center seam. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to lay this ruler on here like this, 2 inches. And we are going to cut here. And then we're going to turn our mat and we are going to cut here. And don't worry, if you don't have a rotating mat, just use a smaller mat that you can turn. So 2 inches from the center seam. Oh, make sure they don't slide out of line. If they do, just remember it's 2 inches from the center seam. And then one more. And we're still at 2 inches from the center seam. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put our half square triangles over here like this. We're going to put our bar blocks over here like this, and we are going to start with our pinwheel. All right, so here's our pinwheel. We're going to put it up in the corner, and we're going to make a little frame for this pinwheel with these right here. And we're going to make down this side as well. Our center section is going to, it's what's going to give us this piece here, like this. So we're going to go with this first half square triangle pointing downward, like this. And then the rest of them all point up, 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 and up, just like this. And then we're going to sew these together. So this is our block. And I'm going to go ahead and stitch this up. Natalie, if you would like to come up here and cut this other pinwheel to get us ready for it, that would be awesome. And just they can watch you very closely. I'm just going to sew down 2 at a time, right down the side, and then I'm going to add that third block as I come back up. There we go. This one, top row is got all 3 blocks. And you're going to have to open these up and just put it up there and then flip that center section over and do that. I mean, you can do it however you want. I like to leave mine sewn together, so it works. It really does work like pins for me. I'm not a big pinner, but this works well. Also, cut 1 block, sew 1 block. Don't cut a bunch of them and think you're going to remember where they went. I mean, unless you keep them in their own little piles and you get really good at this, by the end of the quilt, I could actually cut up a few at a time. All right, so then now I'm going to lay this, make sure it's all still going the right direction, and I'm going to sew these 3 rows together.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I think that's good. Wait, you can press this one when it's done.
Okay.
Don't leave yet. One more little task. It's good to have helpers in the studio, isn't it? I started Ron off by helping me in the studio, and now he sews quilts. I started my grandchildren off helping me in the studio. Annie learned to iron helping me. It's fun. Fun to do things together. There we go. And this one is ready to go. She's moved the bar blocks to form the frame. And then we have this little centerpiece that kind of looks like a Star Wars ship somehow to me. But what we're going to do is we're going to sew these 2 together again. And maybe this time I'll sew all 3 rows, all 3 in a row at once, for those of you whose brain works differently. All of our brains work differently, and so you have to do what makes sense to you. Don't try to do it my way if it just confuses you. You know, as long as you can... as long as your block goes together the same way, it's okay to do it your way. So I'm just going to do this 3 rows together like this. And I'll put that row back. So we all get to the same place, but we sometimes get there differently. And then we'll put this one over here, stitch this on here. Like that. And I always like to lay them out to make sure they're in just the right order and I didn't make any angled boo-boos. All right, here we go. One more. it is time. Oh, she's, she's got those pressed for me. Look at that. Thank you, Natalie. There we go, and then this one here. One more, make sure it's going the right way, and it is. These disappearing blocks are so much fun because there is a million different things you can do with them. And let me get this thread back in there. There you go. Now, Natalie, if you'll press that, I will meet you guys over here at the design wall. So now I'm going to show you how to lay out this quilt. And this, again, is a brain thing, so do what makes sense to your brain. But for me, because of the fact that I'm angrily challenged, I started with this center block, and I built around it until I had the whole quilt laid out, and then I sewed it together, and I sewed it together kind of in quadrants. So I sewed this together first, I sewed my 2 blocks together here, you know, I kind of worked my way out from the middle. I sewed 1 row together that was solid, and I ended up taking it apart twice. So my brain did not work well with the row sewing on this, but it works well with the design sewing. So use what works for your brain. So follow me over here. So you could see on the big quilt that I chose squares that had the same value for the center. And let's see, I just want to make sure we can get this all in here so you can see it. Now when you put this together, you're going to look for your little half square triangles to meet in the center. So we're going to meet those up right here. And it's going to make a type of medallion block. And so look for your little corner half square triangle. They go to the center. And the way this should look is that the pinwheels should be in the 4 outside corners. Then I put on my next corners like this. And again, you're going to want to watch for these corners. And I'm going to put one out here like this. And then I'm going to put one over here. Let's see, I could do this one. I want to make sure you guys can see this well. So this one, again, you're putting your white triangle to the center and one more out here, like this. And do you see what happens? Do you see how that steps back? And so you're going to do this block on all the corners of this first round. On the second round, let's go back to this other quilt over here. We've made corners that go all the way around the sides, on all 4 sides. But when you get out here to this next row, our corners are further apart. So we still have our corner. We're always bringing our white triangle to the center. But then these 2 blocks come in, white triangle to the center again, but no corner. So then we have another corner out here and corner on the bottom. And you just have to do these fill-in blocks, and they come together with their white triangles, just like this. So keeping those triangles together is really the key to putting this quilt together. It makes a super fun quilt. It's really fun to see with all of its different, you know, positions and layouts that you can do, but this is a fun layout, and I've called it illusion for a reason. And when you're looking at it, if you don't actually get the exact look you're looking for, look at it through your phone, because all of a sudden you'll see how that steps out. And it's very, very cool. So once I got all my blocks together, you know, I have 36. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 6, and it makes a nice big square. I had all my light leftover 10-inch squares left. So I made a little 2.5-inch strip border with some of my backgrounds and some of my lights, and I just took them and cut them into 2.5-inch strips like this. I laid them all in a little stack. Let me grab this one and just show you. And we're just going to cut 2.5-inch strips like this. So you're just going to cut them in 2.5-inch strips like this. And there should be, in my pack, there were 7 extra, because 36 blocks, you know, plus 42 to make a total layer cake. So I just kept these all in a stack, and I just randomly sewed them together in one long strip, and that's what I used for my first border. I did include some of my background strips. You can see here, and you can see here. You know, just to break it up a little bit and make sure that I had enough. but it came together so fun. So the last outer border out here is a nice big 6-inch border. The quilt ends up being 78 by 78. The quilting pattern on it, we used variety. I felt that this fabric, this Edyta Sitar fabric, is so, it's just more fancy, feels fancy to me. And I went ahead with a fancier quilting pattern, and it's called Variety, and we happen to actually love that one because it's just really good. You know, when you look at a quilt, you want to decide if it's more traditional, more beautiful, more whimsical, and go with a quilting pattern that matches the fabric that you've used. Because if I use different fabric on this, it's going to look very whimsical. And so just think about that when you choose your fabric and you're making it. But it just came together so well and so fun. And I hope as you go into the new year that you'll take a chance on some new things, trying some new quilt patterns, and that we will enjoy a whole nother full year of quilting together. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Disappearing Pinwheel Illusion Quilt from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you aren't already part of the Missouri Star Quilt Company family, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss a thing. And if you click that bell, it'll notify you every time a new tutorial comes out. See you next Friday.